a Eduque. Cadê a equipe da Eduque? Está aqui. Eu queria agradecer a presença de todos. Esse é um evento que a Eduque se junta aqui com o meu sócio Charles Groisman, da Idea Action. Falei certo? É uma correalização nossa. É uma noite bastante especial. Tiago ali na música e o Mauro, querido, aqui na intervenção na pintura. A gente teve o apoio aqui muito importante da Faculdade Santa Maria de Cajazeiras da Paraíba, que eu agradeço, e da Angel Ambiental, cadê o Wilton, que eu agradeço também muito. E a vinda do Seth ao Brasil só foi possível graças ao apoio e os esforços da FISESP, da CONIB, cadê o Sérgio Napchan, está aqui representando, muito agradecido. A gente está com o Seth Siegel de Nova York, fazendo as suas fotos, e que chegou hoje de manhã, já esteve com o repórter Eco, né, da TV Cultura, já falou longamente aí sobre o tema com a Zero Hora. Cadê o Ayrton? Quero agradecer, Artão, Montoff, que está ajudando a gente. O Charles vai falar daqui a pouco, ainda depois do Seth, na hora que ele apresentar a mesa nossa, mas já adianto que ele cuida do Rios em Ruas, né? Circuito Rios e Ruas, Ruas, né? O Seth já me perguntou hoje de manhã o que é aquilo ali do lado, ali quando a gente chegou vindo do aeroporto, né? Eu falei, ali é um rio, né? O rio Tietê, meio escondido, a gente não tem muita visibilidade do rio porque não dá para ter, né? Mas, enfim, a gente teve também o apoio aí das inscrições, do Ticket Agora, e na divulgação da Carta Capital. Eu queria também dizer que esse evento ele é um esquenta, né? A partir da semana que vem, a gente vai ter segunda, terça e quarta, aqui embaixo, no Tucarena, uma mega feira de livros. Cadê a Egli, a nossa agitadora dos livros, minha amiga livreira? E então hoje a gente está esquentando aí a coisa para chegar na Flipuc, na festa literária da PUC. Eu convido vocês, que vocês espalhem aí notícia. A gente está com uma programação. Tem o folhetinho aqui, lá atrás, tem o folhetinho com toda a programação. A gente vai ter começando com o Seth Siegel e a água, a gente vai passar pelos índios, pela cultura afrodescendente, pela Laerte, cartunista, e muitos escritores. A gente encerra na quarta-feira à noite com uma mesa imperdível com o Renato Mezan e a Eliane Moraes, e depois, lá embaixo no Tucarena, a gente tem então uma banda klezmer, Painted Bird, dos Estados Unidos, que vai estar participando aqui em São Paulo de um festival de música e vem mostrar para a gente essa música judaico-cigana, que eu acho que vai encantar todo mundo, principalmente quem ainda não conhece. Eu queria agradecer ao professor Eugênio Trivinho, que representa aqui a nossa reitora, Maria Amália. Queria agradecer tanto a minha equipe da Eduque, como a equipe do teatro, que nos ajudou aí a montar o evento, e a própria PUC, que está apoiando aí os projetos da editora. Em especial, eu queria agradecer a presença do Orni Ringer, que é o nosso novo vice-cônsul de Israel, porque a dica desse livro veio do teu antecessor, o Fares, né, que era o vice-cônsul no final do ano passado, e quando eu comecei a falar que eu ia entrar aqui na editora, eu falei que eu queria um livro que fugisse um pouco ao padrão, né, e que fosse mais abrangente, com maior visibilidade aí no mundo, e foi a dica do Seth Siegel, e a gente rapidamente, através de um circuito de amigos, eu falei com ele, lá de Nova York, e a gente começou a produção muito rápida. No meio do ano o livro estava pronto, numa linda produção da minha equipe. Tá lá. Então eu queria convidar o Seth Siegel, que nasceu em Nova York, 53, grande ano, né, Aninha? Um ano bonito. E é um empreendedor, um ativista da água, é autor do nosso best-seller, que foi considerado best-seller segundo o New York Times. Ele é ativista da mudança na política da água nos Estados Unidos e em todo o mundo. Ele é reconhecido pela sua liderança de pensamento, a sua advocacia pela escassez, contra a escassez de água, é colaborador de muitas entidades e universidades, especialmente a Universidade de Wisconsin, é assessor de água e agricultura no Startup Nation Central. Seus comentários aparecem em muitas publicações, incluindo New York Times, Wall Street, Washington Post. Agora ele vai expandir o portfólio dele com um monte de jornais no Brasil. O livro dele já está disponível em 15 línguas, né? Mais de 50 países. Ganhou elogios de muitas personalidades, incluindo Shimon Peres em Israel. E os problemas que ele fala têm realmente despertado muita reflexão, né, nos 4 cantos do mundo, incluindo Congresso dos Estados Unidos, Nações Unidas, Banco Mundial, o Google e muitos locais, universidades Harvard, Yale, Princeton. E essas ideias vão se espalhando pela TV, rádio, mídia impressa, mídia digital. E de um advogado, que ele começou a carreira dele, ele passa para uma carreira comercial, cofunda uma empresa que cuidou de marcas globais, como a Harley Davidson. Cadê o nosso presidente do KKL aqui, que gosta? Né? Uma bela Harley Davidson, AT&T, Coca-Cola, outras marcas, até que a empresa foi vendida para a Ford, e desde então ele se dedica a maior parte das suas energias ao serviço comunitário, ajudando empresas novas, ajudando essa batalha pela questão da água, e já foi indicado até a um prêmio por uma produção na Broadway, né, O Homem de La Mancha, que eu cheguei a assistir, muitos de vocês também, depois foi montada no mundo inteiro. Ele está trabalhando um segundo livro, além do Faça-se a Água, Let There Be Water, é um livro sobre a contaminação generalizada da água potável nos Estados Unidos e o que deve ser feito para enfrentar essa questão. Ele mora em Nova York, é casada com a sua querida esposa há quase 40 anos, não? A Rachel. Então, por favor, Seth Siegel.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful introduction. It's not often that I need to have a headset on to understand the introduction, but thank you very much. For those of you who don't understand fluent English, I understand that there's headsets available for you, and I have been asked by Professor Lilly, are you still here, Professor Lilly, to be kind and speak slowly. And I think that speaking slowly for people from Brazil is natural, but I'm from New York City, and speaking slowly is completely unnatural for me. So I'll do my best to speak at about this speed so that you can understand and that they can understand, but I may occasionally get excited and speed up just a little bit. Okay, so I wanted to actually, I've never done this before. Mauro, could you come here a second? So tell us, what is this a map of? What is this T-shirt of?
Bom, essa camiseta aqui é do nosso projeto aqui, do projeto pelos rios do Charles aqui. E aqui mostra os rios de São Paulo. Isso é muito interessante, que mostra, assim como as veias, né, Então, para o corpo, aqui mostramos aqui os grandes lagos e todos os rios hoje cobertos.
Now, of course, I didn't understand a single word he just said, but I'm hoping that he said the same thing now that he said a few minutes ago. So, thank you. So no, don't go yet, but I wanted to tell you why I wanted to start this way, even though I've never done this before. And I speak very widely all across America and all around the world. And this is because this T-shirt represents to me to a very large extent, part of the problem that we have all around the world. If I asked everybody here to close their eyes and imagine, say, the map of Brazil, I imagine, you don't have to close your eyes, by the way, but if I asked you to do that, I don't imagine you'd have much difficulty closing your eyes and knowing where, say, Salvador is, or where Recife is. Don't go away yet. Or where Recife is, or where, of course, Sao Paulo is, right? Am I right? No. But if I asked you to close your eyes and sweep away all of the political boundaries that man created and simply imagine the map from its natural water profile, please raise your hand and tell me if you actually could do that. Could even one single person do that? I've never done this before, so this could be a trap. I mean, maybe everyone will raise their hand. Could anyone here do that? Maybe if you're a professor. Okay, so you're either a nerd or does nerd translate? You're either a nerd or you're a professor of geography. It's one or the other. And the problem about this that I identify, about this is that we don't think enough in water terms. Thank you very much. That we don't think enough in water terms. We think about things in political terms. We think about things in geographic terms, in terms of just the political boundaries, but we don't think very much about the world in water terms. And increasingly, this is going to be a problem for all of us. Increasingly, because we don't or haven't yet been forced to think in water terms, but only to think in, say, political terms, we've put ourselves at a deficit. Now, I want to tell you the story of how I came to write this book, and we're going to have, I hope, a very interesting evening. I was told that there were some 6 water professionals or people with professional interest who have prepared questions, so I'm going to do something, I don't normally do. I'm going to keep my remarks as short as I can as a New Yorker. I'm going to keep my remarks as short as I can, and I'm going to invite them up, or however Jose wants it to be done, invite them up all at once, or invite them up one at a time, or hand them a microphone in the audience. But I'd like to make this a dialogue with the audience and have a conversation about what's on your mind. But I'd like to, if I could, to frame the conversation a little bit, and I'll start by explaining how I came to write this book. As Jose said in his introduction to me, that I was a businessman, I've been a lawyer, I've been some other things, but what I came to very late in life is water activism. About 5 years ago, I attended a talk at a foreign policy think tank in New York. It was attended by about 15 or 20 people. The speaker there was a senior U.S. government intelligence official who shared a report that had been declassified a few days earlier. And the report said that by the year 2025, about 60% of the world's landmass would be experiencing water scarcity, as would more than 1 billion people directly and billions more indirectly. He said that this would lead to higher food prices, social instability in some places, the failure of some countries important to the United States, and could even require a rethinking of America's global defense architecture. Now, in his explanation for why this is all happening, he said, of course, and this is obvious to everyone here, that the largest culprit is climate change. But that's not the only element. The other elements, he gave many, I'll only give 2 or 3 more. The key next element is population growth. We are now about 7 billion people in the world today, and we are projected to rise to more than 10 billion people in just the next couple of decades. Now, if we are already pinched for water to grow the food we need, the question is a fair question to ask: where will we find the water to grow the food for these new billions who are on their way? In addition, we aren't only growing more in number, we are growing more affluent. And that is actually a very good humanitarian piece of news. It's great news because of the fact that everybody in this auditorium, no matter how poor a student you may be, no matter how much you wish you had more money in your bank account, everybody here lives something like what might be called in economic terms a middle-class lifestyle. Everybody here has the opportunity to turn a light switch on in their home, to flush a toilet, and to have a diet more or less around the kinds of foods you want to eat. And people who are middle class or more wealthy tend to have an animal protein-based diet, cheese and meat and poultry and so forth. Whereas poor people tend to have a diet based upon grain like rice or corn. And so it turns out that it requires an enormously larger amount of water to grow animal protein than it does to grow grain. In fact, to say just one statistic, it takes 17 times more water to raise a pound of beef than it does to grow a pound of corn. Now, if, as the United Nations projects, some 1.3 billion people in just the next 10 years will be rising out of dire poverty into the middle class, where they will have electricity in their home where they have none now, and where they will have a diet more similar to yours and mine, and you may be a vegetarian or a vegan, but you aren't that because of money. You are that because of ethical reasons or religious reasons or health reasons, but not because you can't afford to go and buy yourself a piece of chicken or a piece of beef. Now, the reality is, I keep thinking someone's hissing at me. No, that's not the case. Okay, so that the reality is that with 1.3 billion more people rising up out of the poverty into middle class, which, as I say, is great news from a humanitarian point of view, this is going to cause an enormous upheaval in the way we grow our food and the amount of water we're going to need for this. And there are many other things, like, for example, around the world, our infrastructure transporting our water is increasingly broken. In Brazil, the country as a whole, you lose about almost 35–37% of your water after it's been cleaned and put into your city's pipes. It leaks to the level of about 35–37% of your water is simply lost. That is a monumentally large amount of water. And the country has declared a goal that by the year 2030, that number will be brought down to a mere 30%, and that will be considered a victory. So I left this meeting of the senior intelligence official briefing talking about this coming global water crisis and all these reasons for it. And I went back to my office, and I was very concerned. Now, you may ask, why late in life did I suddenly, out of nowhere, develop this obsessional interest in water? And the honest answer is, I don't know. All I know is that for whatever reason, it grabbed my attention and just wouldn't let go of me. All I can say is that I found myself going online and looking for answers as to not just what is the scope of this water problem, but what are the solutions to it. And here's the part where I became amazed. Because everywhere I looked over the coming days and weeks and months of my research, wasn't research, I was just reading. You know, you go online, you can flatter yourself and say you're doing research. You know, your wife might say you're just wasting time surfing the web. So there's a fine line about that, I suspect. But I was, whether wasting time or doing research, I'll leave it up to you to decide. Everywhere I turned, it seemed that the solution to global water problems was either invented in Israel or was one in which Israel had played a leading part. And I don't know how many of you have ever been to Israel, but I found that amazing because I had been to Israel, and I knew that, for example, it doesn't get a lot of rain in Israel. I knew that 2/3 of the country is desert. It seemed to me kind of amazing that it would be possible that out of Israel would come all these great water innovations. And so I dug a little deeper, and I want to tell you what I discovered. Remember I said to you that the fellow from the intelligence agencies said that climate change, population growth, and rising affluence were the 3 leading reasons for water scarcity? Well, here's something remarkable. It turns out that Israel has been a terrible victim of climate change. Over the past 20 years, Israel has lost about 25 to 30% of its average annual rainfall. In terms of population rise, I didn't know this, but I know it now. Israel has had the fastest rate of population rise of any country in the world since Israel became independent in 1948 to this day, an 11-fold increase. That's a massive population growth. And other than Singapore and South Korea, when we're talking about economic activity, Israel is 3rd in the world in economic activity during that same period of time. So you put these pieces together, and you should assume that Israel, which is in the driest region of the world, 2/3 of the country is desert, you should assume that Israel should be a complete water basket case. But the opposite is the case. Israel is so water abundant that it is able to provide 24/7, without limitation, water on demand to anyone and everyone in the country anytime they want it. Now that makes that not sound like such a big deal, but only about 10% of the world's population has that opportunity. In addition, even though agriculture is enormously water consumptive, it turns out that Israel is self-sufficient in fruits and vegetables and even exports billions of dollars a year of agricultural produce, which is akin to exporting billions and billions of gallons or cubic meters, as it were, of water, precious water, to other places around the world. And on top of that, Israel also provides the majority of the water consumed by the Palestinians in the West Bank. It provides the Kingdom of Jordan with a very large amount of water. And even during periods of conflict, Israel provides the Palestinians in Gaza with a very significant amount of water as well. So I put all this together, and I said to myself, aha, maybe I have before me a model for what a world in ever greater water need should do. Now, we'll talk a little bit more later about what it is that Israel did, and I'll just sort of put it out there, a couple of headlines. Israel has a very smart cultural approach to water. They educate everyone in the country from nursery school on what they should be thinking about water and conservation. And when you learn something when you're 3 years old and 4 years old and 7 years old and 10 years old, you tend to have it as a lifelong belief. Now, sometimes that's in the service of a bad ideology, but in the idea of being conservation-minded about water, it's a good idea. In addition, Israel has a very good form of water governance. Israel does not have politicians involved in deciding how water should be allocated. Rather, a group of technocrats, professors, and other professionals make decisions about how the water shall be allocated in the country. And Israel also uses an enormous amount of technology in the use of its water. Now, I want to pivot for a moment, if I can, to talk about 2 last things. One is about Brazil itself, and second of all, to talk about a larger lesson that I think and hope we can draw from all of this. About Brazil itself, it's often said that Brazil is the largest resource in the world of fresh water. And I suspect that if you stopped almost any Brazilian, they would know that fact about your country. Well, it's true. Brazil, if you look at the totality of the country, has an enormous amount of water, between about 12 and 16% of the world's water reserves. But guess what? It doesn't matter, because where the water is where the people are not. And so therefore, it's not where the water is, where the people are, it's not where the agricultural need is, it's not where the industrial need is, and therefore, it's very nice that it's there, but it ultimately doesn't make a difference. And therefore, the 80% of the water of the country that is found in the Amazon region should be actually taken off the grid for the purposes of this conversation about what to be done next, and you have 20% left. And what has happened is that because Brazil, I suspect, has a mindset that either it's a poor country or that has a mindset that it has lots of water, some sloppy habits have been created. And that's how you allow a water system to leak at the level of 35, in some places in the country, 55%. That's how you get to the position where you allow polluted products, pollution to get into the water system of the country. This is how you get rivers around the country to be turned from rivers into sewage canals that are just simply rolling rivers of waste, whether it's human waste or industrial waste or chemicals, all toxins, many of them carcinogens that can cause cancer. This is how you get sloppy about things, and the reason I want to say to you that there's a reason to be optimistic about the future, not just the dry future that the world is going into, but even in wet places like most of Brazil, is because we see in the model of Israel what can be done with focus, with government attention, and with an aroused citizenry. And every one of you here, 5 years ago I was not a water person. Every person here could well be a water person starting tonight. Maybe you weren't before tonight. But everyone here can be demanding of their public officials, speaking out to the media, asking for more stories in the news, asking for different types of curriculum. Those of you who are professors or students here, those of you who take courses or design courses that talk about water and the hydrological table. And being more like Israel, I make the argument, whether you are a rich country or a poor country, a wet country or a dry country, whether you are a large country or a small country or a landlocked country or not, it doesn't really make a difference. Because what the model and lesson of Israel is that by focusing on something significantly, you come up with a better outcome. It's very well known that Israel is a major military force. And it is such because the country made a decision to focus on important abilities for the country to defend itself, and therefore they built a great military. It's less well known, but somewhat known, that Israel has developed the world's most sophisticated immigration absorption system, because once again, for ideological and humanitarian reasons, Israel made a decision that they wanted to welcome enormous numbers of refugees, from Jews from every country in the world who wanted to be there, and wave after wave of immigrants and refugees have come to Israel. And as such, they developed a great immigration absorption system, one which is studied by countries all over the world, particularly now that I fear that there will be ever greater numbers of people picking up and moving from where they are to where they aren't because of water and political problems. But the third thing that Israel became great at was water itself, because they decided to focus. There is a process, and again, I don't think I have to say much more than just that. Or whether you are one of Europeans in Britain with the leaving the European Union, whether it's the recent elections in France where a right-wing populist had the risk of running away with the election, as recently as this past week in Austria where a right-wing populist party came to power. My point is only that around the world, liberal democracies are in danger. My point is that what we now take for granted that has given us a good quality of life and given us opportunity and the ability to speak our minds without any fear of retribution, that we cannot take that for granted. Now, people of a certain age in this audience have something that I don't have. I have never lived, except as a tourist, I have never lived in anywhere that is other than a democracy. But some of you of a certain age can remember a time when there wasn't a democracy here in Brazil, and that is not a happy time. You would never want to go back to that, but people have short historical memories, and we can drift back into a bad pattern. And this is the point I want to make. I actually believe that the reason why these populists, sometimes these demagogues, are able to gain a footing and a following and sometimes get swept to victory is because of the fact that they have convinced people that government has failed, that governance no longer works, that government can no longer deliver the goods and services and provide a quality of life and safety that they have come to expect. And I argue that by getting the simple-ish things right, picking up the garbage, making the streets safe, making sure everyone has clean, safe water when they want it, knowing that poor people in the society don't have a less good outcome in water just because they live in the wrong neighborhood. By proving those types of things, I believe we score an important victory for liberal democracy to thrive. And so while I really am speaking broadly about the fact that we need to speak more about water, to think more about water, we can't take it for granted, I also believe that there's an even larger mission here, and that is the Western way of living that is at risk because people don't believe increasingly that they believe that they are going to have the goods and services delivered for them. So I think I'm going to pause here. I'm going to open it up, if that's okay with you, Jose. I'm going to open it up. I don't know exactly the structure. Do I hand the microphone to people, or do they come up on stage, or how do we do this? As you wish. Okay. So, and then I would also say that one quick word while we're doing housekeeping here. I know that some of you I see have received the book. I want to tell you two things about this. The first is because it is very important to me that no one think that I'm doing this for commercial reasons. I want everyone to know that I have not received, nor will I ever receive, a single penny of royalties, not net or gross, from any book connected to this project. I have donated 100% of the royalties worldwide, and as Jose said, we're in 45, 46 countries now, in 15 languages now. Every single penny is donated to charity, and the goal here is to simply get more people engaged. And second of all, on a smaller issue, if anybody here would like me to personalize their book, or if they're giving the book as a gift to somebody, to personalize it for them, I will stay here until the roosters crow in the morning. I'll stay as late as you'd like, and be glad to sign anyone's book and write anything you'd like, as long as it isn't too obnoxious. Okay, so I'll stop now, and Jose, you can invite people up and take it away.
Yeah, eu vou convidar o Charles para anunciar a turma. Charles is going to invite the people, and I also just want to say thank you to the a turma da tradução. Muito obrigado aqui da PUC, que estão aqui trabalhando à noite conosco, para que todo mundo possa acompanhar a conferência.
Primeiramente, obrigado, Seth, por tão inspiradoras palavras e para a questão Brasil e o impacto das tuas palavras aqui como uma influência para todos nós. Queria agradecer o Goldfarb por essa oportunidade hoje e os músicos, o Thiago Duar e o Mauro Neri, que estão aqui propondo uma questão artística, que é introduzir arte nas nossas vidas através da própria água. Eu gostaria de trazer ao palco para esse debate algumas pessoas que eu admiro muito pelo trabalho que elas realizam. Primeiramente, o Samuel Barreto, gostaria que viesse aqui. Ele é o gerente nacional de água do The Nature Conservancy, com 24 anos de atuação na área socioambiental e gerente do assunto água no Tennessee. Também a presença do César Pegoraro, da Fundação SOS Mata Atlântica. O César é biólogo, educador, permacultor e atua há 20 anos em ONGs socioambientais, promovendo a mobilização pela despoluição dos rios e preservação ambiental. Na SOS Mata Atlântica, ele é educador do projeto Observando os Rios. Quero aproveitar já para trazer à mesa o Wilton Lúcio, que é da Angel Ambiental e será o moderador dessa noite, entre os convidados debatedores, que terá o papel aí de transformar, polinizar, a gente fala, em vez de polemizar, polinizar as questões. Gostaria de também trazer o Procópio, engenheiro Procópio Gomes de Oliveira. O Procópio é da DT Engenharia, do método Float Flux, que é um método de despoluição, e também vai contribuir com um olhar tecnológico para essa noite. Gostaria de pedir que o Luiz de Campos Júnior, da iniciativa Rios e Ruas, meu parceiro, que há tanto me inspira nesses últimos anos, com a própria criação do circuito, um especialista geógrafo da questão dos rios soterrados em São Paulo, que sensibiliza com a sua iniciativa, juntamente com José Bueno, que não pôde estar aqui essa noite, o olhar dos rios soterrados de São Paulo. Queria chamar a Mônica Pius Borba, do Instituto 5 Elementos, uma expert em educação ambiental, com uma ascensão bastante importante nesse assunto há muitos anos, uma precoce nesse assunto no Brasil. E a honra de também ter aqui conosco o professor Alexandre Delijakov, da USP, da FAO, que vai trazer bastante do seu olhar e experiência para esse debate. Então, a ideia aqui é pessoas que já vivem a questão da água no Brasil trazerem à tona para o Seth perguntas com ênfase na pauta hídrica nacional do Brasil, São Paulo e nacional, para que a gente possa pensar um pouco na causa brasileira e como que a gente pode efetivamente achar um caminho além do pensamento para a ação e realização dessas ideias nesse país. Obrigado a todos.
Pessoal, boa noite. Queria agradecer a todos pela presença. Segunda-feira, pós-mudança de horário de verão, é um dia sempre um pouco mais tenso. E o dia tem sido bem longo, especialmente para o Seth, que desembarcou em Cumbica hoje. Já teve a oportunidade de passar ao lado do nosso rio Tietê para entender um pouco melhor o contexto hídrico da cidade de São Paulo. Quando eu estava discutindo a formatação desse evento com o Charles, a gente estava tentando estruturar isso da melhor maneira possível, eu disse a ele que o que nós gostaríamos de promover seria um diálogo construtivo, um diálogo em que a gente pudesse trocar ideias, e a gente acabou até fazendo uma brincadeirinha de polinizar ao invés de polemizar, né? Todo mundo sabe que quando um inseto poliniza uma planta, ele na verdade está trazendo uma parte de uma outra planta para aquela planta e assim por diante. E no final das contas tudo se enriquece e se desenvolve. O meu papel como mediador aqui hoje é garantir primeiro que todos os participantes da mesa pudessem ter tido acesso ao livro, se preparar para fazer as perguntas para o Sr. Siegel, e também garantir que vocês da plateia tenham a oportunidade de perguntar. Como eu falei no começo da minha introdução, o objetivo hoje é dialogar, o objetivo hoje é polinizar. Então a gente realmente espera que ao final aqui das perguntas dos participantes da mesa, a audiência também tenha a oportunidade de falar. Para isso a gente tem os aparelhos de tradução simultânea. Vocês podem fazer as perguntas em português ou na língua que se sentirem mais confortáveis. Pode perguntar em inglês também, porque o Seth está usando headset e pode responder adequadamente. E eu queria tirar vantagem um pouco aqui da minha posição de mediador e fazer a primeira pergunta. E depois acho que eu vou seguir mais ou menos a sequência da mesa. O professor Alexandre tem alguma limitação de horário aí, a gente combinou que ele ia ser o primeiro, e acho que a gente pode ir indo do professor Alexandre até o Luiz, para que vocês saibam quem é o próximo a perguntar. Eu queria perguntar para o Seth sobre um assunto que para os brasileiros tende a ser muito importante, né? Você mencionou hoje que menos de 10% da população mundial pode afirmar com tranquilidade que tem acesso à água 24/7, todo dia, sem muitos percalços, sem muita crise. Eu queria mudar um pouco para uma perspectiva de agricultura, né? Todo mundo sabe que a agricultura hoje no mundo é uma das maiores fontes de consumo de água, né? A gente ouve falar muito hoje de Big Data, Internet das Coisas, Indústria 4.0, mas eu nunca ouvi, pelo menos até agora, se falar muito de agricultura 4.0, né? Então, o que eu queria perguntar para o Seth é se ele entende também que parte da solução do problema hídrico mundial passa por a gente fazer uma agricultura nova, por a gente fazer uma agricultura que use água, que não necessariamente use menos água, mas que use água de uma maneira mais eficiente.
I apologize. I thought when you handed the microphone that you wanted him to answer my question. So I got a little. I was thinking maybe I just hadn't gotten enough sleep on the flight. I didn't know exactly what I was doing wrong. So I'm sorry. We are in good luck because last Monday night I gave a speech, a keynote speech called Agriculture 4.0, Our Future. So I have to try to remember what I said a week ago, but I think I've got something good to say. The very exciting world that we are in right now is that there is an enormous opportunity to bring technology, big data, and all kinds of other technologies like great photographic technologies and rapid processing technologies to the benefit of growing food. And I can give you just a couple of examples of things that are happening. Many of these are coming out of Israel. Israel is a world leader in this arena as well, but it's not only Israel by any means. This is a global revolution. We all are familiar, I hope we're all familiar, with the idea of self-driving cars, right? I mean, they say it'll be happening in the next 3 to 5 years. We're going to start seeing self-driving cars. And frankly, I can't wait for that day. I hate nothing more than sitting behind the wheel of a car when I could be doing something really important, like looking at my Facebook page or something like that. So if you think for a second about the technology of self-driving cars, what's the biggest impediment right now to making it universal? The biggest impediment is the fear that your car is going to bump into my car and either hurt me or kill me. But there are places where the chance of your car bumping into my car are impossible, such as on a farm, where we are hectares and hectares away from each other. So what we are going to be seeing very soon is a transformation of the farm, and I'm going to try to sketch the architecture for you on this. First, a drone technology now is pretty good. A drone will fly over the field with all kinds of sensors that will be able to tell you down to a space about as large as this table, where the soil has too much water, where it has too little water, where pests are beginning to disturb the plant, where the soil is really not very good for growing because although the field itself is large, this little patch has a lot of sand or a lot of clay, and therefore, why waste fertilizer or seeds on something that can't grow? And then tractors, with or without people behind the wheel, will be able to go onto the field and harvest or plant or add fertilizer or add what's necessary in real time. And then to take this yet a step further, to be even really spooky, there is an opportunity to develop robots that are about the size of from my elbow to my hand, that will go in a field and be able to harvest or pull weeds out of the field in such a time. Now, given the fact that there are 3 problems to agriculture today: a lack of arable land, a lack of labor to do the work, and a lack of water. I want to talk about the 3rd thing in a second, but this robotic system with drones will assist you in taking arable land and water aside, but labor costs will be able to come down because of the fact that you'll have robots being able to do much of the harvesting, even down to strawberries and blueberries. Now, in terms of arable land and water, I want to talk about this, and I'll try not to go too long because we have a large panel, but I want to just say there's a technology invented in Israel called drip irrigation. Most of the world irrigates its fields. The vast majority of the 5 million hectares in Brazil that are irrigated, 96% of the 5 million hectares in Brazil that are irrigated by either flood irrigation, where you turn on a spigot and flood the field, or by some type of sprinkler irrigation. The problem with both of those is that they both lose enormous amounts of water, up to 80% of the water, to evaporation. With drip irrigation, you have tiny little drippers that drip droplets of water at the roots, below the surface usually, and because there's no contact with the air, there is 0 lost to evaporation. Now, that's good. Now let me tell you what's even better. Frequently, I said in my opening remarks on the stage, I said that frequently where you have the water, you don't have the ability to use that water. Well, think about this as a possibility. Even in the Northeast, say, where it's dry, or in other places, with drip irrigation, you have the opportunity to transform almost any kind of dirt, earth, into a growing medium. In Israel, and you'll see in my book, there's a photograph of this. In Israel, they have a huge industry of desert agriculture. What is a desert? It's sand. How do you define what sand is? It's barren. Nothing can grow in sand. So how in the world, think for a moment, how in the world do tomatoes and melons and cucumbers and peppers, how do they grow in the sand? So what they do is they use the sand to anchor the seed. And they use these little drippers not just to deliver water, but to deliver nutrients that normally are provided by good fertile soil. And that allows the plant to grow. Think also in terms of a rice paddy. Right now, rice uses up enormous, or sugarcane, sugarcane's a big, big crop, white gold of Brazil. It uses enormous amounts of water because it's flood irrigated. But you could be drip irrigating the roots of the sugarcane. You don't have to have it only in classically good farming grounds. And Brazil could increase its agricultural exports by mega billions of dollars a year by using drip irrigation technology in one of its many forms. Arable land becomes an outdated concept. Everything becomes arable land, growable land. Water, because of lack of evaporation, you save at least 50, probably 60% of the water. This is the great answer. Technology of the future is amazing. The technology I'm talking about came to market in Israel in 1965. There has not been a single field flood irrigated in Israel since 1970. It's actually against the law. They use drip irrigation. And they have become, because of that, an agricultural exporter.
Obrigado. Eu vou passar a palavra agora para o professor Alexandre.
Em português. Queria rapidamente agradecer ao Charles Groisman pela lembrança e o convite, o professor Goldfarb também pelo convite, e parabenizar o Seth Siegel. Muito interessante os assuntos, uma convergência de pesquisa lá na USP, na FAO. E eu gostaria de compartilhar aqui nesse diálogo com vocês aqui, o seu trabalho, né, sobre assuntos que nos interessam, sobre a difícil arte da construção coletiva do lugar, né? Eu acho isso muito importante porque desde a revolução da agricultura a humanidade passou a ser um construtor de rios artificiais, inclusive nessa região de Israel. A origem da palavra canal vem de Qanat, que é a construção de um rio artificial. Então, acho muito bem-vindo esse trabalho de como nós temos que acreditar no diálogo e na construção coletiva da inteligência da humanidade rumo à construção do nosso lugar. E desde a Segunda Guerra Mundial, rapidamente o planeta se urbanizou. E muitas experiências sobre o planejamento e gestão integrada das águas, né, passaram a servir de exemplo para São Paulo e para o Brasil. Aqui em São Paulo, o Plano Estadual de Recursos Hídricos serviu de exemplo para a Lei Federal das Águas, né? Eu queria, então, colocar aqui nessa difícil arte da construção coletiva um assunto que é o seguinte. Dentro do conceito de unidade hidrográfica de planejamento e gestão, ou seja, a bacia, a subbacia e a microbacia hidrográfica, e, ao mesmo tempo, a transposição de bacias, como é que nós podemos pensar num desafio para todos nós, de um confiar no outro, que seria o seguinte: o prefeito de uma cidade, ou o Robinson Crusoe, poderia captar a água a jusante, água potável para alimentar a população de uma cidade ou de uma região metropolitana a jusante de um rio, e jogar o esgoto 120% tratado a montante do rio. Eu acho que isso é um desafio para todos nós do planeta, considerando que a água é finita. Hoje a FAPESP publicou uma pesquisa sobre a construção do planeta Júpiter, na força gravitacional, de como possivelmente a água atingiu a Terra pela força gravitacional da formação de Júpiter. E certamente essa água está com data para sair daqui, né? Então, como é que nós, 10 bilhões ou 7, podemos, enquanto isso, né, nos organizarmos para vivermos coletivamente no espaço urbano, preservando nosso ouro azul, que é a água?
I think you raise a important philosophical question, and by its very nature, an incredibly difficult one. But I think we also can celebrate the fact that in society, particularly in democracies, there is the potential for significant changes in attitudes in remarkably a short period of time. When I was a child, I'll just give two examples. When I was a child, I couldn't think of a single place that people were not smoking cigarettes. People would smoke cigarettes in restaurants, of course. People would smoke cigarettes in movie theaters. And I know this sounds almost impossible to believe, but my family doctor smoked a cigarette while he was examining me. It's impossible to believe this now. It is also impossible to imagine that somebody now would light up a cigarette here in this auditorium and that everyone wouldn't jump on them, even possibly cigarette smokers, right? I'll give an example. I have no idea what this relevance is in Brazil, but I can speak in the United States. 5 years ago in the United States, 80% of the American population was strongly opposed to the idea of gay marriage. 80%. Today, 85% are strongly in favor of the right of gay people to marry. It's a significant change of ideas. So I just will say, in answer to your question, I think it's a hard issue. But change comes about because people like you and all the people on this panel, and perhaps either everyone or nearly everyone in this audience, steps forward and says, this is no longer acceptable. It is no longer acceptable that Sao Paulo takes 40% of the stuff that's flushed down the toilets in this city and dumps it in the river with no treatment whatsoever. It's unbelievable. This is a rich country. This is a rich city. I mean, Sao Paulo would be what, the 6th or 10th wealthiest country in the world if it was a freestanding country. It's unbelievable. And the reason for that is because no one has demanded of the governor of the state of Sao Paulo that you allocate resources to fix this problem, not in 15 years or 20 years, but today. And it's easy. You know why it's easy? It's easy because this is not something where we have to invent a new solution. There isn't a technical person on the stage or in this audience who doesn't know how to do this right now. Nothing new has to be invented. It's just a question of the will to make it happen. Politicians and the media and civic leaders and heads of companies respond to the demands of the public. The fact that we don't have this is because we haven't done a good enough job ourselves of demanding it.
Thank you. Vou passar a palavra para a Mônica agora. Conforme a gente combinou, Mônica. Acho que é só uma mesmo.
Tá certo. Bom, eu trabalho com mobilização e educação ambiental há muitos anos, né? E o nosso país é muito diferente de Israel, é um país que tem muita água. Então, a nossa consciência das pessoas é que isso existe em todo lugar, não existe aquela carência de água, porque o Nordeste, que é a região que tem menos água do nosso Brasil, as pessoas economizam, sabem economizar. E no resto do país, isso não é muito o dia a dia das pessoas. Eu queria perguntar, né, sobre essa questão de mobilizar as pessoas em relação à luta pela água, as questões pela água. Nas redes sociais, né, nos grandes centros urbanos, a gente vê todo mundo clica, tal, abaixo-assinado, mas pouco se economiza mesmo no dia a dia. E na realidade rural isso não existe, né? Não existe a internet como funciona nas grandes cidades. E é óbvio que os agricultores, né, eles usam muita água no nosso país. Como você daria algumas dicas, sugestões de mobilizar esses produtores rurais? Porque no Brasil tem muitos pequenos produtores rurais. Não estou falando de grandes extensões, nem... É o pequeno mesmo, que muitas vezes faz coisas nas suas propriedades muito... Porque o avô fazia, os antepassados já faziam. Então, eu queria saber se você teria alguma dica, né, de Israel, de como que trabalhou com a mobilização desses pequenos agricultores mais isolados, que têm uma cultura de uso da água muito diferente do que precisa. E só para completar, acho que no nosso país a gente tem uma outra possibilidade de produzir alimentos com base agroflorestal, né? Porque nós temos biomas aqui que potencializam outro modelo de produção de alimento, que é totalmente diferente de Israel, porque a gente pode usar muito menos agrotóxicos e, né, outro modelo de produção que está surgindo e que acho que tem uma outra transição para pensar em produção de alimento aqui no Brasil, bem diferente de Israel.
Thank you, Monica. You raised two separate things, and I'll try to address mostly the first one, and that is how to save water. I want to tell you that Israel really does lead the way in this way as well. A few years ago, more than a few now, Israel made a decision that they were going to have 0 government subsidies for water. 0. Not for infrastructure, not for administration, not for pumping water to your home, not for repairs. 0. 100% of the cost of water would be paid for by the Israeli public. They developed a sophisticated pricing model. They allowed this organization to borrow money to get everything done, and the bonds would be paid off by the Israeli public over a period of time. But the key part of the process was no subsidies for water for anybody. Not for city dwellers, not for hotel owners, not for people who have swimming pools in their backyard, and not for farmers. I want to tell you what happened. They figured that it would be a hardship for farmers, so they decided that they would phase in this real pricing over 4 years. Do you know that in the very first year, farmers' use of water dropped 18%? Why? Because they knew it was coming. They knew pricing was coming. So they changed the crops they were growing. They were more careful on the water they were using. They used more technology in making sure that things got fixed properly and promptly. And in the same way that you made an economic decision in the car that you own, or the blouse that you're wearing, or the next vacation you're going to take, when you are charged with the opportunity, and I call it an opportunity, not a burden, of paying the real price for your water, not only does the system then have enough money to pay for fixing your question, for fixing the rivers and the untreated sewage. Not only does it have all the money it needs for that, but every single individual becomes a partner in the decision-making process of saving water. Real pricing is the solution. Now, you will ask the question, if you haven't somebody well, and should ask, what about poor people? If you raise the price of water and make it so expensive that poor people can't afford it, isn't that unfair? And the answer is yes, it is unfair. And in the same way that we tell poor people that they won't go hungry, or they won't go homeless, or they won't go without medical care, and we give them vouchers, or we give them apartments, or we give them, in America, coupons to buy food. In the same way we do that, in Israel they give people water coupons, either 100% water coupons, or 25% water coupons, or some subsidy, just based upon how much their household income is. Because you don't want poor people to have to find themselves in a situation where they can't afford water, but where they can afford some part of it, you want to make them your partner in making decisions on the economics of water. Market forces work well in almost everything we do. If tonight's speech and audience was $50 admission charge, I think Jose and I would be speaking to each other. If tonight we paid everybody who attended $50, we couldn't contain everyone in the audience we have here, because market forces just work. We should use market forces for water. We use it for everything else. Now, you mentioned pesticides. I'm writing a book, Jose mentioned I'm writing another book. It's about this very topic, about the contaminants that are getting into our water, and we are paying a probably catastrophic effect on all kinds of disruptions to our hormonal systems, and changing the evidence now coming out that we are changing the DNA of ourselves and our children with unknown consequences. And in this pursuit of ever greater harvests, I make the argument we need to be thinking smarter and better before we start applying ever more amounts of pesticides, because we are paying a very large price. The farmer gets a good harvest, and we are getting ourselves, I believe, I'm not a hysterical, I'm not a conspiracy-minded person, but I believe that we are putting ourselves, if not certainly in danger, is certainly the chance that we are taking on an unthought-through risk for adding all this stuff to our plants, and therefore as it washes off into our water.
Obrigado. Uma das minhas preocupações quando eu estava fazendo o convite para as pessoas participarem da mesa é de se elas conseguiriam efetivamente ler o livro e se preparar para fazer as perguntas necessárias. O Procópio não só leu o livro, como ele marcou umas 400 perguntas aqui que ele tem para o Seth. Então, eu agradeço muito ao Procópio e eu dou a ele a palavra para fazer as suas perguntas. Muito obrigado.
Bom, é um prazer estar aqui.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Eu acho que eu não vou perguntar nenhuma.
Do you have a question for every one of those flags?
Não. Alguns pontos que eu achei interessante aqui no livro, por exemplo, que nenhum rio pode ser despoluído totalmente, né? Então já cria um conceito também, porque por exemplo, a legislação brasileira ela é muito restritiva e muito potente em termos de parâmetros de exigência de tratamento de água. E, via de regra, nada é cumprido, né? As estações de tratamento de esgoto tratam nossos esgotos a nível secundário e pouquíssimos casos no Brasil, acho que quase nenhum aqui na região metropolitana, tem estações de tratamento a nível terciário, como praticamente todas em Israel são. E, de fato, nossos rios estão todos contaminados, né? Hoje, se você perguntar para uma criança que nasceu no município de São Paulo que rio que ela tem como referência limpo e que ela possa contar na infância dela que ela brincou no rio, certamente 100% das crianças não vão ter uma memória de infância de conviver com o rio limpo. Então, e no Brasil todo mundo tem uma opinião formada sobre alguma coisa, né? Seja sobre política ou até sobre despoluição de rio. Mas aqui no Brasil o assunto de despoluição de rios é um assunto muito recente. O Brasil tem muita experiência em tratamento de água, tratamento de esgoto, mas os rios estão poluídos e ninguém sabe o que fazer com eles. Eu tenho alguma experiência em tratamento de despoluição de rios, até construção de estações no próprio leito do rio, de forma que o rio passe em fluxo natural e sai da estação limpo. Isso foi feito aqui perto de nós, aqui no Lago de Ibirapuera, no Parque da Aclimação, no Horto Florestal, no Zoológico de São Paulo. E eu queria falar um pouco sobre o Rio Pinheiros, que acho que até uma demanda da população. Por que o Rio Pinheiros, uma das maiores cidades do mundo, não é despoluído se não faltam tecnologias, né? Eu não tenho dúvida que não faltam tecnologias para a gente despoluir um rio. Mas qual abordagem a gente pode fazer para despoluir nos nossos rios, tendo em vista as experiências que tiveram em Israel? Hoje a gente tem um conflito até de engenharia, da fração até das faculdades, dos professores, de você ou ir para o caminho convencional e ter que coletar todo o esgoto, levar para a estação de tratamento de esgoto e não deixar ele cair no rio. Isso no Brasil certamente demorariam décadas. Na bacia do Rio Pinheiros tem uma estimativa que nós temos 850 favelas na bacia do Rio Pinheiros que drenam para o Rio Pinheiros. Então, como resolver, através de uma solução convencional, uma urbanização que não é convencional, né? Então, porém, existem também soluções tecnológicas que não são convencionais. Como é que a gente pode montar esse quebra-cabeça e também passar essa mensagem para a população? Porque talvez mais de 90% dos paulistanos, se você perguntar, tem solução para o Rio Pinheiros? A resposta vai ser não. Ninguém acredita que pode ser despoluído, e pode ser despoluído, e tem solução a curto prazo, e tem solução financeiramente viável para que isso possa ser feito e possa ser pago. Por exemplo, o Rio Pinheiros aqui em São Paulo, não sei se todos sabem, mas toda a chuva de São Paulo, o Rio Pinheiros é bombeado para represa Billings. Ele funciona como se fosse um grande tanque de reservação de esgoto e poluição, e quando chove forte na região da bacia do Rio Pinheiros, a comporta do retiro que divide o Pinheiros com o Tietê fecha, e toda aquela poluição, aquele cartucho preto, vai para a represa Billings. E muitas vezes ficam se discutindo milionésimos de algum parâmetro para poder liberar algum tratamento complementar. Então, o que fazer para a gente poder ter um resultado a curto prazo e evitar buscar o inatingível?
I can speak about the Israeli experience, but has anyone in this audience ever written a book? Anybody in this audience written a book? So I'm new to this book writing thing. I don't know if I made that clear. I was a lawyer and a businessman and a very loving father and husband, and I had a busy life. And the book was totally an accident. And I'm sorry, I really will get to an answer, I promise. The book was totally an accident, and it became sort of is the story Cinderella, something people in Brazil know? Yeah, so it's like sort of a Cinderella story. It's like, I wrote this book, my wife and I have this joke, that I write this book and that, maybe they'll print 500 copies and maybe we'll buy 350 to 400 of them, something like that. And this thing got really wonderful and such. So you write the book and you're living in the book and you're living in the book. It's all you think about the book. Then you finish the book, and then in my case, I want to start another book. So now I'm working on another book. And so I'm going around to audiences talking about this book, but in my mind, I'm actually thinking about the next book. And so I can give an answer about Israel, but I'd like to actually give an answer not about Israel, because I want to tell you about a chapter of the book I'm writing right now. The Thames River. Anybody here ever been to London? Okay, most of you. Now, you said any success in changing the pollution. The Thames River, at the time of the great writer Charles Dickens, so we're talking about something not 500 years ago. We're talking about something almost in living memory, a little more than, say, 100+ years ago. The time of Charles Dickens, and the times of, if any of you are scientists, and the times of Michael Faraday, the great scientist. In that era, the Thames River was the source of the sewage of the largest city in the world, London. The Industrial Revolution had begun about 100 years earlier, and there was every factory along the river dumped their industrial pollutants in the river. There were butcher shops along the river, and they dumped the parts of the carcasses at the end of each day in the river. At that time, before cars, if a horse died, they would drag the horse and dump the horse into the river. I can keep going, but are you getting the sense that this is not something you'd want to spend your summer vacation swimming in? Okay. Now get ready. Hope no one is on their way out to dinner after this talk. The city of London got their water from the Thames. You would extract your water from the Thames. You would wait. You would have it in your glass. You'd put it on a counter. And you'd wait for gravity to let the bad stuff settle down. Of course, all kinds of invisible microscopic stuff was not settling down, but no one had microscopes then. And they would use that water. Can you imagine this? And then there was the kind of popular uprising of the kind that I spoke about before, that we need to get organized. Ordinary citizens began demanding change of the legislature. And then what happened was, one day there was something called the Great Stink. It was a series of ultra-hot days. All the organic material in the river turned alive. A foul smell covered all of London. And there was a popular uprising. And in a matter of 9 days, Parliament voted millions of pounds, which now would be billions of dollars. They voted millions of pounds to fix the Thames River. Within 12 years, fish that had not been seen in the river in 75 years returned. Those of you who've been to the Thames, who've been to London, know that today it is as clean as any major city river. There's no smell from it. It's a remarkable, it's a tourist attraction now. And therefore, what we need to do is, for the rivers of Sao Paulo and the rivers of Brazil, you need to demand that there be sewage treatment and that no more raw sewage be dumped into the river. Completely easily doable. You have environmental laws. You have to demand those laws be enforced. Start charitable organizations, non-governmental organizations, NGOs. Bring lawsuits against factories. File lawsuits against the city, file lawsuits against the state. You will be amazed at the transformation in the quality of your rivers and the quality of civic life. I regard it as unacceptable in this day and age with the technologies that we have for any river to be a sewage channel anymore. So that's really the answer. It seems impossible until it isn't. Every single revolution was inevitable until the day before, when it seemed impossible.
Só adicionando ao que o Seth acabou de descrever, o parlamento inglês fica às margens do rio Thames e ele não podia se reunir mais por causa desse odor kárstico que vinha do rio. Então, o governo também se sentiu muito incomodado e se moveu em direção a uma decisão. Eu passo a palavra agora para o Samuel Barreto, com quem eu tenho tido o prazer de trabalhar ao longo dos últimos 3 anos. tentando entender como é que a gente costura esse mosaico aí de preservação, agricultura e tantos usos diferentes de água em 25 localidades na América Latina. Samuel.
Boa noite.
Só antes do Samuel falar, como eu tinha adiantado no começo, o professor Alexandre realmente precisa sair, ele já tinha nos avisado. Agradeço muito a sua participação e espero que a gente possa fazer mais. Muito obrigado. Samuel?
Boa noite a todos. Queria agradecer o convite, Hilton, Charles, parabenizar o Siegel pelo livro, pela obra, por compartilhar o conhecimento conosco. A gente vive uma era de incertezas. Aliás, dizem que alguns já afirmam que estamos vivendo uma nova era diante de transformações tão profundas. E acho que você colocou alguns pontos fundamentais nessa discussão que afetam inclusive a água. A mudança climática, que é onde a gente vai conseguir observar exatamente os efeitos dessa mudança, seja na seca ou no excesso de água. A questão do crescimento populacional, a questão do preço real para essa questão, né? E a gente tem um desafio enorme, porque todos os prognósticos colocam 15 anos, por exemplo, relatórios da Unesco, né, outras agências de cooperação, colocando amanhã, 15 anos, dizendo que vai haver uma redução significativa da reserva de água. Então, 15 anos, né, depois de amanhã, tendo todo esse impacto. E, ao mesmo tempo, acho que um dos desafios é gerar resposta em escala, impacto e celeridade. E um pouco pela governança da água. O ano que vem a gente vai ter o Fórum Mundial de Água aqui no Brasil, a primeira vez no Hemisfério Sul, vai acontecer em março do ano que vem em Brasília. Acho que é uma oportunidade, inclusive, de participação. E a reflexão, não é uma pergunta, né, Siegel, mas acho que é uma reflexão. O clima tem uma cúpula e todos os compromissos que existem de água no mundo são compromissos voluntários. Existem leis de países, né, leis nacionais, inclusive na questão do saneamento aqui no Brasil, no ritmo que as ações são realizadas e implementadas, o melhor cenário aponta que a gente resolve o problema em 2060. Outros já afirmam que não é para nós, não é para esse século, é para o século seguinte, para o século 22. Então, diante desse desafio da celeridade, da escala, do impacto e de uma resposta importante, ser a governança da água, você acha que ter um compromisso global, uma cúpula global de água, gerando compromissos não voluntários, mas vinculantes, a exemplo do que foi a COP agora, né, do clima de Paris, criando compromissos vinculantes, pode ser um caminho para essa celeridade?
Samuel, you raised several important points, and let me just see if I can address a few of them, respond to them. First of all, I think that, and I may end up, to the extent that everyone in this audience now likes me, in about 15 seconds you may suddenly hate me. So I want to be honest in saying, I want to prepare you that I'm going to say something that some of you may not like. I think that climate change is important, but I think we have our priorities wrong. And I know that this puts me at odds with 99% of my friends back in America and 99.9% of the environmentalists around the world. And climate change is a very real issue, and we need to focus on it, but it's very much of a tomorrow issue. Nobody believes that 2 days from today we're going to put ourselves into a death spiral because of something we have or haven't done vis-a-vis climate change. All of the climate models talk about things that are mid-century, sometimes even 100 years from now, rising sea levels, temperatures, and so forth. And I don't want to suggest that I don't care about my children and grandchildren. I do, or your children and your grandchildren. I do. But we have a very real and immediate concern that is at our door right this second. And I thank you, Samuel, for changing the focus from both Israel and Brazil to a global question. I thank you for that. Because I want to raise something else here. We have a challenge in front of us. It is true that Brazil has plenty of water, but there are other parts of South America that do not have plenty of water, that are dry. And there are about 600 million people in India who live in places where there's the risk of water giving out. And in Africa, there's over 80 million people who live over aquifers that are at risk of giving out. And I think that if we're not careful, we should get ready for a humanitarian crisis and a new phrase called water refugees. Now, if anecdotally a couple of dozen people left Sao Paulo during the drought a year or so ago and moved to another city, get ready for something of a scale and a dimension and a humanitarian crisis that you cannot possibly imagine. And this is not, Samuel and everyone here, this is not just a problem for those people we don't want to think about, because those people are going to be your next door neighbors. If whether it's Bolivia or Paraguay or I don't know where else they run out of water, they're going to come to the nearest place where there is water. And this has the potential to be disruptive in a way that we really have never thought of before, certainly not even the disruptions of the period following World War II and the creation of India and Pakistan and the decolonial era. And so I really say to you that, and I say this to government officials I meet everywhere, is that not only are we not thinking about water in the micro level of sewage treatment here in Sao Paulo, we are not thinking about water on the macro level in terms of what this is going to mean as national security issue for almost every country, either because they're going to have a water deficit and there's going to be upheaval, or because of the fact that people will have a water surplus and therefore become a magnet for would-be immigrants to them. So I think this is a very important issue, and I think climate change is an important issue. But climate change gets 99% of the media attention, and water gets almost none. I'll conclude with one last comment, and I don't hate the media. I love the media. The media is our vehicle for getting the word out. But I want to say that it drives me crazy. You can go through your daily newspaper, and I live in New York City, so I read the New York Times, and I have a game I play. I try to see how many consecutive days I go through the newspaper and there's a story about water versus how many days is a story about energy or a story about climate change. And the answer is there's almost never a day that there isn't a story about climate change. There isn't almost never a day there isn't a story about energy. And I can go weeks and weeks and sometimes months without a single story about water. And therefore, that tells me that the people who help shape opinions don't value this sufficiently. So that's my comment about that. Thank you.
I think you can stay with us.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
So just to complement your last point, Seth, we normally tell our clients around the world that if climate change is a shark, water resources management are the shark's teeth, right? Eu me confundi na língua aqui. Se a mudança climática é um tubarão, gerenciamento de recursos hídricos são os dentes do tubarão. Não é o tubarão que te machuca, mas é a mordida do tubarão. E eu concordo que a gente tem feito muita propaganda sobre climate change e não tem prestado muita atenção para a questão de água. Passo a palavra agora para o César Pegoraro. O César também fez o trabalho de casa bem feitinho, me mandou as perguntas. Só pediria para você se limitar a uma só, porque a gente realmente quer conversar com a plateia e eu acho que nós estamos bem de tempo, mas estamos chegando no final.
Can I just, because I think we're on I think we're at an important moment here, and I want to, if I may, just say something to the audience. That I think you've picked up by now. I'm very passionate about this issue. I hope you've figured that out already, and this means a lot to me. I'm not looking for audiences, I'm looking for partners. And if what I'm talking about is appealing to you, and you want to start doing what you're doing, and you want to think of me as an ally or as a resource, I invite you to do one of several things. If anybody wants my email address, I get a monumental number of emails every day, but I do my very best to respond to every email within 24 hours. If anybody wants my email address, please come see me afterwards. I'll give you my card. You can be in touch with me. I don't think Twitter is popular in Brazil, but I tweet about water issues 4, 5, 6 times every day. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter at Seth M. Siegel. And if there's any other way that I could be helpful to you, if you don't take the information today, please do follow up with Jose or others on this panel at a later date. This is an important issue, and you don't need me to do this. You can do this yourself. You can customize it for yourself. But if I can be helpful in any way, I don't want you to think of this that I'm in Sao Paulo for a couple of days or 4 days and I'm on my way and never think about it again. It's quite the opposite. Everywhere that we can get the movement going, it's important.
Boa noite a todas e todos. Obrigado pelo convite, Charles, Hilton. Tenho várias questões aqui, mas vou me organizar para fazer uma só. Vejo assim que ao ler o livro dá para perceber assim o quanto a água passou a ser uma questão de fato estratégica, uma visão coletiva, uma visão política que se escolheu para uma nação. Aqui nós percebemos que no Brasil nós ainda mantemos algumas culturas muito rudimentares, como a de buscar água cada vez mais longe e poluir o rio local, afastando as pessoas do seu contato, do seu privilégio de ter um rio ou da necessidade da manutenção da sua cultura local com o rio. Nós, na Fundação SOS Mata Atlântica, uma ONG que atua com várias questões ligadas à Mata Atlântica, fazemos um trabalho com voluntários em que eles são nossos monitores para a questão da água, ao analisarem a qualidade dos rios. Em 307 pontos que nós analisamos no último ano de rios brasileiros, apenas 2,5% destes rios tinham qualidade boa, o que mostra que, na visão desses nossos voluntários, de fato nós temos um processo muito equivocado, tanto político, institucional, quanto da sociedade civil, na relação com a água do seu território. Apesar de, como o Procópio mencionou, temos leis interessantes para a questão dos recursos hídricos, contudo temos algumas brechas, alguns espaços que deixam essa situação existir, como por exemplo o fato de, na legislação brasileira, termos uma resolução do Conselho Nacional do Meio Ambiente que classifica os rios brasileiros e permite que tenhamos os rios de classe 4, ou seja, um rio Pinheiros não é um crime ambiental, é uma peça jurídica. Ele pode existir perante a lei, né? Então, o que me deixa, vendo a obra do Seth e estudando as histórias de Israel, é muito maluco entender isso, né? Como é que nós temos esse crime ambiental previsto na nossa lei. Então, queria só que você contasse um pouco mais como é que aconteceu esse desenvolvimento jurídico para a questão da água, no caso de Israel, evitando esse tipo de situação.
Well, I'm sure everyone here knows of the fact that there was a national water law passed sometime around 2000, I think. I think it was either 1997 or 2000 or 2002, somewhere in that era. And the National Water Agency, I think, was founded in 2000. Is that about right? And then around that same time, you formed river committees here in Brazil. And there were some 200 water committees. I think it's the number. Again, it's your world, not mine. But I think I have it about right. And this is the height of insanity. In the interests of being democratic and responsive, you've created complete paralysis. There is no possibility that you can really fix a river when there are so many different river committees for so many different segments of a river. So you asked what Israel did. In Israel, what they did was they passed a law and they created a trustee for each river of the country. It's as if like you have an aunt who suddenly is lost her mind a little bit, and you want to make sure she's not taken advantage by anybody, so they appoint a trustee to look out for her assets. Well, in the same way that a river can't speak for itself, but if the river could speak for itself, it would want to not have sewage dumped into it. It would not want to have industrial chemicals dumped into it. It would want to have fish. It would want to have birds feeding off of the fish. It would want to have a natural life. And it would not want to be overpumped and so forth. And so each and every one of these rivers has now a river commission, but not, instead of having multiple committees making the decisions for that river, there's a trustee who is charged legally with the responsibility of looking out for the interests of that river. And that is what, and interestingly, there's a bit of a competition that goes on amongst these trustees. Oh, my river is cleaner than your river. Oh, I've got more progress than yours. I've raised money to do this. Why aren't you raising money to do this? Oh, I've introduced kayaking. I've introduced fishing. Oh, we've put all kinds of plantings along the riverbank. And that type of process has worked exceptionally well. Now, there are exceptions. Israel still has one very big water problem with one river, but it's unrelated to water quality. It's related to environmental issues and overpumping. But all the rest of the rivers today of Israel are in much better shape as a result of having these trustees and having these river commissions. And I would say that the idea of having a river that has multiple trustees is like having, we have an expression in English, if you have too many cooks, the soup will turn bad. And if too many cooks spoil the broth is the exact expression. But the same thing happens with any other thing. You can't have multiple committees making decisions for the same river.
Ainda bem que o Luiz tem o microfone, porque o meu braço é longo, mas não tanto. Luiz, por favor. Deixamos você por último, mas os últimos serão os primeiros.
Boa noite a todos. Também agradecendo o convite por estar aqui. Além de dar os parabéns ao senhor Seth pelo trabalho, eu já queria dizer que eu fiquei muito interessado na questão da cultura de valorização da água em Israel. Uma cultura que tem na água, naturalmente, um fator de importância. Eu trabalho com isso já há mais de 20 anos, exatamente mais nessa questão cultural da água. E nos últimos anos a gente tem trabalhado na iniciativa Rios e Ruas com a questão dos rios urbanos na cidade de São Paulo e depois tendo a oportunidade de trabalhar em outras cidades do país também. E o que a gente vê é que a mentalidade ou a cultura que se estabelece na cidade de São Paulo com relação aos seus rios urbanos, ela contamina uma cultura geral no país e as outras cidades também, a ponto de você ter cidades que não têm o desenvolvimento urbano de São Paulo, têm uma condição rural muito mais desenvolvida do que a urbanização, ainda tem rios bons e estão contaminados com uma visão de desqualificação dos rios do seu lugar. Ou seja, um lugar que o rio nem está sujo, ele tem a ideia de que aquele lugar será mais avançado, mais desenvolvido se o rio for coberto, canalizado e for construído no entorno. Essa é uma visão que acaba contaminando, embora a gente tenha já uma conscientização de vários outros públicos querendo preservar também. O que eu queria perguntar especificamente, na opinião do Sr. Siegel, é se existe alguma possibilidade de a gente ter o desenvolvimento de uma cultura de valorização da água sem ter uma cultura de valorização dos rios urbanos, sem ter uma cultura de valorização do seu rio local, do seu rio próximo, que é com o que a gente trabalha, com a questão de que limpar o Pinheiros e limpar o Tietê é limpar a nascente que está no seu bairro, do lado da sua casa também, limpar os rios, os riachos e assim por diante. Essa é uma questão que a gente tem tentado reverter e trabalhado em cima disso, junto da população de São Paulo, que ainda tem a resistência de uma cultura antiga de que o rio é um entrave para o desenvolvimento da cidade, que o rio é uma coisa que não deveria estar lá. Uma cidade não é lugar para rio. O lugar para rio é na natureza, digamos assim, né?
I've spoken tonight, thank you. I've spoken tonight several times about we need to get government engaged, we need to get citizens engaged, we need to get the media engaged. And while you were asking your question, an important question, I realized that I had left out a very important party in all of this. And if I spoke sincerely about the force of market forces changing behavior to Monica's question, then I would say that I need to raise it in a different way to your comment and question. And that is that we need to engage businesses. Businesses that right now think it makes sense for them to simply use the rivers as a way of dumping. And of course, we need to clean up sewage from the homes. We can't continue to allow people to take their toilets and basically turn our rivers into toilets. That's clear. And the technologies and the cost is all very clear how to fix that. But I think the next piece of this is to engage companies and real estate development and understanding the enormous amounts of profit that they can make. And I want to share with you just two things. It's been a long evening, and I don't want to make it longer. I just want to share just two things. First is one not Israel, one Israel. The first one that's not Israel is that sewage treatment of the kind that we think of today, or something similar to it, started in England and the US around the year 1912, 1914. The technology has evolved continuously, but the basic idea of getting the stuff that we dump from our toilets into our rivers, somewhere around 1912, 1914, a bunch of scientists and engineers in the UK and in England and in the US began to realize that there's actually a very simple way of getting rid of all of that stuff. Well, a very short time after this was tried at one river in England and one river in the US, lo and behold, whereas the river used to be basically a floating sewage dump of solid wastes and trash and dead animals and dead, just stuff floating, suddenly the shoreline became clean. And businesses started inviting tourists to come do things along the shoreline. And then guess what? They made a whole bunch of money. And then other people in cities around America started saying, well, wait a second, we have a river also. We also could do that. We could clean up our river too. And it became an economic opportunity. It became a real estate development opportunity. In my book, which will be on sale as soon as we're done here, how to put that plug in my book, I tell the story of Israel's largest southern city called Beersheba, and how the river, the Basur River that ran through it, was for many years, just like rivers we're talking about, was a sewage channel. People would dump refrigerators and old cars and bicycles and just dump it. And then they created this trustee system that I mentioned earlier, a question back, and they cleaned up the river. And what they discovered is that was considered to be the most disgusting part of town, where not even poor people would want to have their homes, suddenly became the most desirable part of town. And high-rise apartment buildings went up that were prestige apartment buildings because you had the opportunity to look over this river. Well, I got news for you. Not only was it made cleaner, and now it's going to be, not only is it cleaner and they're building these buildings, but the kind of people, that is to say, not the powerless poor, but people like us who, if people step on our interests, we find a way to punch back. The richest people in that community are the types of people who are buying, the richest, most connected politically, are the ones who are buying apartments now overlooking this river. Now, there's no talk at all anymore about dumping crap into that river. Not at all. But I would challenge anyone to even dare to try. Because now suddenly you have a built-in constituency that says, I've got a beautiful asset here, and you're not going to ruin my asset for me. So I think that this idea of using market forces and profit motives is an important one, and I think that we should look as far and as broad as we can, whether it's business, whether it's the media, whether it's individual choices and so forth. These are problems that can be fixed. It just requires us to focus. And if there's a single takeaway from the book, it's that you can achieve great things in many categories if you'll just focus. Somebody said something very nice. The former president of Israel, Shimon Peres, who I interviewed for my book, and then he asked me if I would send him the manuscript when it was done, which I did. He was then out of office, and he had some time on his hands. And I sent him the book, and he sent me back an absolutely magnificent and beautiful letter. He said that the book really wasn't about water at all. He says, of course it was. I mean, he wasn't a fool. He was a smart man. He said, the book really wasn't about water at all. He said what it was about really was how vision and sacrifice can lead to overcoming what seem to be insurmountable challenges. And to those of you who despair, I think you sense this despair you had and you had, don't despair. We have the ability to fix it. We just have to focus to make it happen. We have overcome, as a civilization, overcome far greater challenges. We can overcome this too. We just have to get going. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Bom, nós estamos bastante dentro do horário. A ideia inicial era terminar essa rodada de discussões, incluindo as perguntas do público às 9h30, são 9h23. Então, a gente tem tempo para conversar com vocês. Quem quiser fazer perguntas, a gente vai circular o microfone. Só peço duas coisas. Primeiro, que se identifique, né, para a gente entender o background e até isso molda a maneira de responder as perguntas. E segundo, evitar um pouco aquela coisa de... Eu queria fazer um comentário e uma pergunta, e fazer um comentário de 10 minutos e uma pergunta de 1 segundo e meio. Tá? Então, só abrir para o público com esses dois comentários. Eu não sei se você quer falar alguma coisa.
Não, eu vou levar o microfone para o público. Só queria comentar que a gente fizesse talvez duas perguntas. O Seth chegou hoje de manhã, né? Então ele está voando, né? E ele ainda tem que autografar uns livros lá fora. Okay. Então, quem quer fazer a primeira pergunta?
While we're waiting for that, I have not thanked Jose Goldfarb, the man who's handling the... he is the man who called me up one day and said, I've just read your book. We need this book in Brazil. Can I get the rights? And I thought to myself, who is this crazy person? And then he said, I'm from Pontifical Catholic University. And I thought to myself, a man named Goldfarb, who is from Pontifical Catholic University, somebody is playing a joke on me. I know this is not real. But then we organized a phone call, and we spoke for, I think it was an hour and a half, and I fell in love, and the rest is history. So please go ahead. Just say your first name. Yes. Yes, he deserves it.
Boa noite, eu sou o Chaba, eu sou permacultor, sou físico, trabalho com facilitação de grupos e projetos colaborativos, participo da Rede Global de Ecovilas, e eu queria fazer uma pergunta relacionada à primeira pergunta que foi feita em relação ao consumo de água na agricultura. E considerando que hoje no Brasil se desenvolve muito a tecnologia dos sistemas agroflorestais, que plantando árvores tu produzes água e recupera o ecossistema, eu queria saber quais são teus comentários, as tuas considerações em relação aos sistemas agroflorestais e as técnicas de baixíssima tecnologia que a permacultura utiliza para reduzir drasticamente o consumo de água e o desperdício de água. Considerando também que boa parte dos alimentos são desperdiçados no transporte. Então também há um grande incentivo para a agricultura familiar e produção de alimentos locais que diminuem drasticamente o consumo de água também.
Yeah, agriculture is an important part of our ecosystem, and we don't give that enough thought. We just think of it as something just out there. You know, again, I said before, we're city dwellers. We don't really think a lot about where our food comes from, but we should. And so it's out there. In terms of loss factors, the average around the world, how much food gets either, this is a terrible, what did you say your first name was? What was your first name? Shaba. The question Shaba was asking, what? Shaba. The question that Shaba was asking is how much food gets wasted. Now, let me tell you the numbers, and let me explain to you where we're talking about waste. It gets wasted in the field because maybe an insect eats it and you can't make use of it. It gets wasted in the field because the farmer doesn't have enough time or enough labor to harvest it, and it rots in the field. The farmer does successfully harvest it, and he brings it to storage, and while in storage, it rots while you're waiting for it to get to transfer. While being transferred, the food rots and it ruins. The food gets finally to the supermarket or the market where it's going to be sold, and it doesn't get bought, and it gets thrown away. And finally, the food does go into your house, and the apple, the celery, or whatever it is, rots in your refrigerator, and sometime after good intentions of meaning to eat it, you don't, and you throw that away. That amount of loss is at least 25% of our entire agricultural produce around the world. At least 25%, and some people believe it could be 40% of our total agricultural efforts around the world. Think about how much fertilizer and how much water and how much seed is wasted in that process. Now, because we were talking about Israel earlier today, I want to tell you that in Israel, the loss factor is, you're going to gasp, but it's true, the loss factor in Israel is 2%. Because they believe that what happens after you plant the seed is as important as what happens before you plant the seed. And so they've developed a harvesting system and a cold storage system and a sophisticated distribution system and so forth. And on top of that, the most sophisticated, there are 2 or 3 fabulous centers of agricultural innovation in Israel. So most of them are tied to a university, like Ben Gurion University, Hebrew University, Technion, and Tel Aviv University. And another one is called the Volcani Institute, which is a government agriculture research center, which all of them focus on ultra-long life plants because of this very thing of it rotting. So it used to be that you grew a tomato, and if you didn't eat it within 2 days of harvest, it would turn to mush. Israeli scientists developed a tomato that can last 3 weeks after harvest, and that gives it a chance to not be wasted. They are working on an ultra-long life apple that can last 9 months. They're working on a melon that can last 6 months. So think about those types of things, that the things that get lost in the supermarket or in your home, forget about what gets destroyed in the field. That's a fantastic opportunity to save water, or also to not waste food in what is still a very hungry world. Thank you.
Vamos para a última pergunta. Ou vamos para autógrafos direto? Vamos para os autógrafos? Ok. A mesa já está pronta.
Thank you very much. If any of you are shy and wanted to ask a question, I'll be outside and glad to answer. And I want to thank our moderator. Thank you so much.
Obrigado, Hilton, e toda a turma.